Hey Chevette Nation, welcome back to the show. Last time we got the rear end installed. Ish. This week we're going to get some pipe, we're going to get some rod ends or heim joints, whatever you want to call them, and we're going to make a panhard bar. Once that's done, the rear end will be in good enough to where I can drop it on the ground and roll it once I get the front end done. But that'll get the back end done. I don't know if that's all I'm going to do this evening. I've got to get that done. Let's get the heat on in here. It's cold in here. As luck would have it, I hoard stuff. I don't think this is going to be a problem. Up here, I've got black pipe. A couple lengths of it. I've also got some square tube. And I think one of those pipes is going to work perfect for what I need. So this is nothing special. I think this is just regular old 3/4 inch pipe, your regular black screw pipe. The same stuff that you run your airlines from your air compressor on. So what I'm going to do here, remember, I got these heim joints, or rod ends, spherical ends, whatever you want to call them. I got these for the panhard bar that I screwed up. Well, I fixed that without using these because they were completely wrong for that application. Big surprise, huh? I got an idea here. Let's just pretend that this fits here. It obviously doesn't. But I'm gonna have to go and get some hardware to fit these threads. Hopefully half as thick as this. This is just way too fat. However, think of this as thinner. Weld it on there, just like that. Then I can screw this bad boy in here and have a jam nut on here. And then boom, right there it is. Just like that. Then, on the other end, same thing, only smaller, exact same thing. I need to get a measurement, find out how long I need this pipe to be to go from rear end, wherever I'm going to bolt it up to, I haven't figured that part out yet, to where the carrier bearing went on the factory rear axle. This rear axle, the factory one, was weird. It was some seriously old school stuff. It had a drive shaft coming off the transmission, and then it went into a torque tube. And then right where the torque tube starts, it had like basically a carrier bearing, just like you'd have on a two-piece truck drive shaft. And it bolted on 2 points like this. Then you had the bearing, and it goes into a tube. And the shaft is inside the tube, but now the tube is part of the rear axle. So that locates the rear end so it can't move. So I need to, now that I've gotten rid of that, and I went with a normal traditional drive shaft from the because of the S10 rear end, now I need to have some kind of a tube, bar, pipe, something to locate that rear end so it doesn't walk around. This should do the trick. The third generation Camaros had something very similar to this, but different. They had this bad boy. This end would bolt onto the rear end, right by the pinion. And then it sat like this. Rear end is over there, transmission's over here, and this end would bolt up to the transmission. And it would move like this with the rear end. But it kept the rear end from doing this. It worked good. It also works as a traction bar, keeps the rear end from binding and moving. But this is just way too big to fit into this small car. I can either have a drive shaft or this. Yeah. So we'll set that back in the corner again and maybe look at it some other day. I don't know. Adapt and overcome, right? My hoarding came in handy again. I grabbed my magic nut and bolt bin and I just pulled this bolt out. I just said, this looks like the right bolt. I grabbed it, I put it up on the floor where it goes, where the carrier bearing went. Boom, perfect. The odds of me pulling a metric bolt out are slim to none, let alone one that fit properly. Double word score, right? So I was gonna use this one, the smaller one, up on the front, up to the floor, to the body of the car. So I checked this out and it was not gonna work. So I started thinking, what the heck can I do? And I started going through my little parts bin up here, and I come up with some little bushings. Just nothing special, steel bushings. I grabbed one, and I said, this looks about right. I put on the bolt, and there was just barely enough room for it to move. So then I grabbed the rod end, and it wasn't going to fit. It was just, you know, it hit right up against there. It's no way is that going to fit. But then I grabbed the large one, the large rod end, and y'all ain't going to believe this. It slid right in there. I actually had to press it on with the bench vise. Two of them. They were small enough where they both slid right in, and perfect. It's sticking out just a little bit on one side. The bolt fits right through there. And hoarding for the win. Okay, we're up underneath the car, up on the lift. I need a better lift. These cinder blocks ain't doing it. Here's the bolt I was talking about. You have to excuse the shakiness here. Okay. So right here, this hole, which is basically the twin to this one, that carrier bearing bolted here to here. So I've got this one bolted up right here, and it's going to go to here in the webbing. You know, drill a hole in there, bolt the other piece on there, get a measurement between the two, and make that torque arm. I don't know how well this is going to work. I know it's been done before. I don't know how successfully it's been done. Because it's going to suck, because if this thing pops, then the rear end is going to nose down bad. And if it happens at speed, that could be ugly. So I'm definitely going to have to tiptoe a little bit when I first get it on the road and find out what's going to happen. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask around and see if other people who've done it too. Hey, it's 2 weeks later. Check this out. I did get a little bit of work done. Look at that. See that crappy weld? That one was mine. When I welded the other side, I was blowing holes in it. I'm not a welder. I pretend to be one sometimes, but I'm not a welder. But anyways, I was blowing holes in it, and then slag was getting inside and getting all up in the threads. It doesn't work out very well. So I took it to the guy at work, and this is what he did. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. We've got one ugly end and one other end. I was gonna put two of these on there on the rear end, but I got to looking at it, and after talking to Josh about this, it's not gonna work. Think of this as the rear end. You've got the spring mounts right here, the spring cups, and the rod bolts onto there, and it goes up and bolts up to the frame. So that's right here. And what I'm doing, let's see, that's right here. Ignore the band-aids. The rods that I'm trying to make was going right here. So that's not enough to triangulate. I need to go from the top and from the bottom. That will keep it from rolling. If they're both at the same elevation, it's not gonna work. It will probably hold it enough to where I can push this sucker around. Earlier I'd set the goal for myself for today to get this in, bolt it in place, and then jerk the motor out. So the guy who welded this, he just lives down the street, 20 miles down the street. He just lives down the street. And he has a TIG rig in his garage. So I was gonna pull this engine, take the pan off, take the pan to him, and have him welded up nice. Not like this. Have him welded up nice. I'm getting a really late start, so I don't see that happening tonight. In all reality, I'm probably just gonna go ahead and put that bar on there. That might be it. I might, hold on a second, because I don't see pulling this engine. Not tonight. I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get this bar installed. If it holds, keeps the rear end from nosing down, then I'm gonna go ahead and take the back of it off of the lift, cinder blocks, jack up the front of it since there's no wheels on there and no hubs and no bearings, jack it up and just push the whole thing back. Probably going to put the back of this thing pretty much right up against the door. I'll have room to pull the engine next time I come out here. Be it tomorrow, yeah, right, or next weekend, I don't know. That went about as expected. Matter of fact, a little bit worse. Check this out. Okay, I'm hoping you can hear me over the heater. I'm actually down on the floor at the same level as that. All right, now, you see this is the factory lower control arm for the rear axle. Bolts here, and then it bolts over there. This is the one that I just installed. If you see, they're both at the same elevation. The springs, right here, let me see, yeah, right there, it's out in front of the rear end. It wants to push the front end of the rear end down, as in rolling it forward. Now that part, this side looks great. That's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Well, when I let the jack down, it bent the spherical rod end. And it was about as expected. And the pinion, you can see how it's pointing down now. It wasn't pointing down when I started letting the jack down. Scratch that. You have to come up with something else. But it will suffice as far as to drop the car off of the lift and on the ground and roll it back over here. So yay, now I get to clean up and drop this thing on the ground. So this is where we're leaving off this weekend. Got the front of the car sitting on the floor jack because the jack stands that was holding up the front of it, there's not enough room for the legs of the engine hoist to go in. Nothing can go wrong with that, huh? Now remember, even though I don't practice this, an hour a day will help keep the jack stands away. You guys take it easy.